Here's these. Slow down, slow down. Good morning and welcome to Stivers Homestead. I'm Zach if you're new around here, and today we wanted to give like a 2.5 year update on if moving here was a mistake or not. So to give a little back set, it's probably about a year ago, 2 years ago, something like, I can't really remember exactly the timing, but we did a video with a lot of emotions going through our head and worry on if we made the right choice or not. We were really having some doubts, we were really questioning ourselves, and a lot of it we think just boiled up to winter depression, but a lot of people were going through the same stuff. We moved to this property in 2020. 2020 was a big year for a lot of people moving, and I know a lot of you all moved as well. And during that time, there's a lot of emotions in general, right? Besides all the stuff that was going on with the world, that was also fresh after my dad had passed away. It was kind of the reason that we all even moved in the first place. And so while we were here, we didn't feel like we were fitting in. And I'm giving you from my perspective at this moment. Maybe we weren't fitting in, or it wasn't exactly what we thought it was. Maybe we just loved the property but didn't love being here. And that was a hard pill to swallow, because after you get in debt like this, you want it to be the decision that you want, right? You don't want to have regrets and not absolutely be in love with your home. So that was that video. We don't want to talk about that today. If you are curious and you do want to hear more of that backstory, I'll make sure that the video link is down below so you can go check that one out too, and then come back and watch this one. So now, here we are. It's almost been 3 years that we've been living on this property, and a lot of things have changed since that past video. We now have some people that we can call our friends. Benny. Benny, quit. Like Benny, he's one of our friends. You just get your mind on things and you cannot stop, can you? Those first few years, we were really trying to reach and find people that we could connect with. We got into a lot of different stuff, trying to meet a bunch of different people, but ultimately, we just didn't find people that really clicked with us. And that's okay. As a homesteader or a farmer, you already know that you're putting yourself into kind of a unique category, and there's not a whole lot of people that really understand your personalities. Well, as time went, we now have some people that we can call on a regular basis, talk to, share stories with, relate to, and that has changed a lot and made things a lot better in these parts. And the second piece for me was the town itself. So when I found this property, I absolutely fell in love with it. Online, I knew it's the one that I wanted, and it was just trying to see if the family would fall in love with it as well when we actually came and viewed it, and they did. And then when you're doing that, you almost have rose-colored glasses on. You're going into the town, you're checking it out, you're eating at the local place, and you're like, I just absolutely love this. Now, to give you a little insight, this town, the population was 3,000 when we got here, and I don't think it's going up. I think it's going down, unfortunately. So it's very small, all the way to the point to where, like, there's really nothing here is not the right thing to say, but you know what I mean. Like, if you want anything, you're gonna have to travel at least 45 minutes to really get what you want. So that took some adjustment too. Once we realized and accepted that fact that we had to travel to be able to do something, we were okay with it, because we went from a town of over 30,000, where at our fingertips, 5-10 minutes away, was really anything that we would want. And so being here, it was an adjustment of our mind. Little culture change, a little culture shock, and making sure that we understood that if we needed those big trips, like say we needed to hit up a Sam's Club, that's a 2-hour trip, one way, and then 2 hours back. So a 4-hour total day. But at the beginning, that was something that we thought of negatively. Now we look at it as a day that we get to go do stuff as a family. It's one of those that we might just be going to Sam's Club, but because we're going to Knoxville, Tennessee, then we're gonna make a day out of it and we're gonna have fun. And those days have become one of the more special days in the world by just going to the grocery store. And the third one, and the biggest one for me, to be honest with you, was fear. There was a lot of fear moving here. We moved away from everyone. You know, Jen's parents were about a little less than an hour away. My mom was over 2.5 hours away. And it was scary, you know, to be quite honest with you. We also had the incident at the very beginning when we moved here with our goats that made us a little bit worried about the people of the town and what we were getting ourselves into. But we dug our heels in and we gave this place a chance. And now I wouldn't trade these people for anything in the world. They're humble, they're secure, they know who they are, which is an amazing attribute to have, and that might seem so simple, but they know who they are. And a lot of them have taken us under their wing and really protected us, respected us, and really welcomed us into this place. And it's made us 100% fall in love with our property, with our town, with the Appalachian Mountains, and really satisfied with the decision to move here. So I wanted to give you my side because I know somebody is going through this in one of the different areas that they are. Maybe you moved with us and maybe you're starting to feel the happiness that we are now, or maybe you're just embarking on this. You just moved and you're unsure if you love your property. The biggest thing that I want you to know is stick with it. You got to give it a chance before you cut the cord, because after a few months, even after a year, maybe even after 2 years, that doesn't mean that the decision needs to be made just yet. It's your mind is messing with you and wants you to just go back to what you're comfortable with. We have to, as human beings, when we're uncomfortable, see it through. We have to see it through, and then when we have a collective mind, we can actually make a good decision on if we want to stay or if we want to move. Because I'm not saying it's always going to work out exactly like ours and that you do end up falling in love with it. You might just be reassured that this isn't the place for you. But that's okay. You just got to give it a chance to make sure that it is the right decision and not just an emotional decision. Somebody write that down somewhere. Make sure it's the right decision, not an emotional decision. I like that. All right, that's my side. But y'all know I'm a little bit more bubbly in these things. Let's see what the real queen of the land thinks about this place nowadays. We are in here with the queen herself. I had told them a little bit, maybe I was a little bit more okay with some of the stuff that I talked about at the beginning, and maybe you were having a little bit more of a difficult time, like with the small town specifically at first. But I'm only going to give her the 3 categories I talked about, and I want to let her express her side without any works for me. So we talked about friends, and then we talked about the small town, and then we talked about fear, because that was my 3 things that really hit me when we moved here.
Yeah. So friends.
Friends.
That was the first one, right? Yeah, at first that's obviously difficult because you have to make friends. Like, that takes time and opening yourself up and being vulnerable and kind of finding the people who you mesh with. In our old town, everyone went to school together, right. So that was easy. It was easy to have friends. But now, I mean, I've got like a pretty close knit like group of friends, and he does too. Some of those are the same, some are different. But it's awesome. And it's really cool because some were locals here and then some also moved like at the same time that we did. Yeah. So we have that in common. We're able to bond over it, and then our kids are close in age, and that's just awesome to have a support group of friends, especially when you're moving to a new place. But it did take time, probably like, a year?
Yeah, like we were introduced to these folks pretty quickly on in, but with our own like kind of self just destroying that we were doing, like we weren't like seeing that the friends were already being created. And then when we were able to kind of flip our switch and we're like, man, they're already here. Maybe we should just try to talk to them a little bit more and give a little bit more of ourselves and see what can blossom from it. And then, they kind of kicked in.
That part is beautiful. I absolutely love that. I love our friends. I love our little community that we've built. And it's awesome. Small town. Now, I'll be honest, that was tough for me up until probably like 6 or 8 months ago. So recent. I mean, we didn't live in a big town where we were, but it smelled fall.
It did smell like mash a lot because it's bourbon country.
It felt small, probably because we knew everyone. So moving here, being in a small town, it's not really a town.
I told them the population was 3,000, and unfortunately that number is not going up.
Yes. It was very different at first. It was very difficult just trying to figure out that, and then it took us a while to get used to the fact that we have to drive like an hour and a half if we want to do anything like in a bigger city. Now if we want to get a different type of dinner, say we want to go have a little date night, that's about a 30 to 40 minute drive, so that's not terrible, but it's still more than what we used to do. Like, we wouldn't really go farther than 15 minutes.
Right. We actually laugh. So we lived in Frankfort, Kentucky was the first spot we lived. And we would go into Frankfort to have dinner or day nights. The thought of going to Lexington or Louisville was mind-blowing.
On a weeknight.
On
sometimes even a weekend. We were like, no, we don't want to go that far.
Right. And those were only like 20, 25 minutes away from where we lived. And now we're going on Wednesday at 6, 45 minutes down the road to eat. And it's that mind change. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It's different. But at this point, I do love it. There's nothing I would change about it now. I love the small town. I love the community feel. I love the people. The little, mom and pop stores, the little tiny restaurants, the bigger restaurants in the bigger towns. And I even like, at this point, having to drive like an hour and a half or 2 hours to go anywhere, because I think it forces us to kind of get out of our comfort zone. And we just have to if we want to do something different. And we've got beautiful drives wherever we go, so that's nice. Nothing's interstate, and we're 30 minutes away from the interstate. We don't have to worry about any of that traffic. And now I absolutely love it, and I couldn't picture us somewhere else, which is wild.
I know.
I don't even think we would know how to function or act if we were to live somewhere bigger or somewhere like we used to.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Because when we do go to town, we feel feral a little bit. We're like, okay, we should probably act like everyone else, act normal.
Yeah, and we've got a good solid day of us peopling. You know what I mean? And then after that, we're like, let's go back to our home.
As for fear, I'd say there was definitely fear at one point, specifically when we first moved here. We didn't know if we would be welcomed. We didn't know if people would accept us or if they would automatically hate us. And there for a little bit, it felt like we were automatically hated. Mm-hmm. And there's probably still some people that probably don't care for us, but that's fine.
You don't have that anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. We had that back in Frankfurt too. Yeah. But fear of, I guess, putting ourselves out on the line and moving to a new place away from everyone, 2 hours away from everything that we knew, that was scary. And lonely at first, very lonely, but I think now it's so normal that it doesn't matter anymore. And at this point, I have no fear of anyone. We met a lot of staples in the community, people whose name really matter. And once they kind of brought us in and sheltered us, then the rest of the community was like, okay, if they like them, then they're not terrible people. So that definitely helped with the fear, just knowing that they have our backs. And a lot of those are our friends, but they also feel like our mom and dads and family, kind of our protectors. So that's really cool. We love that. I mean, that's something that we didn't even have back in Frankfurt. So that's completely new for us. And it's a real blessing for sure. And I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of anything here. I feel very comfortable. It feels like, this is where we're supposed to be. There's no fear involved, no panic, no wondering, are we going to wake up and something's going to be wrong?
Yeah, and I would, if I could add anything to that, I would say that first year, it felt like anytime we went into town, there was a red X on our back. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't. Our minds were making us feel like there was a red X on our back.
Convinced ourselves that it was.
Right, we convinced ourselves that we were a sore thumb and we were just standing out amongst the crowd. And now, almost 3 years in, it feels like when we walk in, we just look like everybody else. Mm-hmm. We blend in.
Or they know us and they're like, Stivers.
Right, exactly. But a lot of that was still just in our own head. Mm-hmm. Nobody here was actually doing that. It's just, we felt a way, and now it's over, thankfully. So, I told them that, in my opinion, it takes at least 2 years on anything new to be able to really feel
to give it a chance.
Yeah. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on your perspective, maybe from a mother or a wife standpoint, on what, your timing, what really ultimately made that switch, what made you want to stay to try. Maybe you can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I told Zach I really wanted to do this video because the first one that we made it connected to so many of you all because everybody moved at the same time. So a lot of you all had the same concerns we did, the same fears, the same questions, did I do the right thing? Should I go back to what I know, or should I stick it out and try to make this home or find somewhere else? So I wanted to give you our perspective on that. And the biggest thing is that you have to give it a chance. You've got to give it, you've got to let the dust settle. You've got to give the people a chance. You've got to get out there. You've got to put yourself out on the line and try to make friends. You've got to get out in the community, make a name for yourself. Let people know that, you are here to stay, whether you are or you aren't, but then they know, and then you can move on from there and be friends or cordial or whatever it may be. But yeah, it's mainly that you've got to give it a chance, because we've had times when we moved somewhere and we didn't give it a chance, and we wish we would have. But I think what you said, I think 2 years is definitely you have to stay for at least the 2 years and just try to work it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thought it was kind of funny listening to your answers because they were very similar to my answers as well. And we did not talk about it beforehand. I was out there, she's like, you shoot your side and then we'll shoot my side. And I think it's a good thing that our answers were very similar. But yeah, so what we're ultimately saying here is whether you moved with us, didn't move, or you're moving now, or you're whatever you are in this period, take, you know, these words of advice from someone that has done this a few times and regretted some decisions that we made. Dive in. Again, it's not always going to end on a happy note. It's not always going to end that, yes, we love this place and we're going to stay. The decision may be, no, we're right. We need to go. We needed to go move again because this doesn't fit. Because as long as you're making the right decision and not an emotional decision, then you're doing the right thing for you and your family. And it's easy to see the two and which one's right.
You just can't bounce back so quick and be like, I don't like it here, I'm moving, I'm going back to my home. That's just, those kind of decisions aren't healthy, and you'll regret it in the end. And you know, it's the whole grass is always greener, but it may not be when you go back.
Yeah. So we hope wherever you are in your journey that you are figuring it out. Hopefully there's more that are falling in love with their place than not. But we definitely get both sides of the course. Just know that we're here with you. We're going through it too. Put down in the comments any of your thoughts, questions that you may have about the move. We'll be happy to talk to you all about them because that's what we love to do. But y'all, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button.
We love y'all.
Until the next one.
Bye.
Bye.